When we think about growth, we often look up. Our vision is elevated, our ambitions are heightened. And because of that, what happens is we shift our gaze from ourselves to a growing lab that we admire, or the technician who inspires us, or just somebody that just seems to be doing it better. And sometimes it's just so easy to look at the fruit of others, but very rarely do we focus on the roots in our own life. And the truth is that everything that has strength ultimately comes from depth. All strong organizations are deep organizations. And that's because all strong leaders are people that have depth. A strong and clear vision will be tied always to a strong and secure root. Confidence, character, humility, integrity. For as long as humans have existed, these virtues have been immovable as the wherewithal of human accomplishment. And today on the podcast, we're going to talk about depth over height. It's a paradoxical statement, I know, but one that proves out the difference between true success and failure. That focusing on identity, not goals, is actually the antidote for the entrepreneurial life you want. My name is Sasha, and this is Entrepreneur Insight. All strong things grow deep before they grow tall. And there are areas in my life that I would love to grow in right now. There are areas in harvest that I would love to grow right now. But I know that I need to grow deep first. First, the invisible, before I can grow in the tangible. And in order for me to take harvest to the next level, in order for you to take your dental lab to the next level, we need to acquire the growth, the character, the experience, the knowledge. We need to acquire those things to be tested. And to be tested, we need to implement new habits and new disciplines. And there have been times when I've intentionally had to slow my business down, like we've literally slowed down the growth. We've constrained our ability to grow because I knew that we needed more depth than height at that time. We have to understand that it's not necessarily the tall buildings that last, but the buildings that have the most depth. Those buildings that have support and foundation. And I've learned a lesson. I've fallen into this trap. A personal story, 2016. And believe me when I say that Harvest almost grew itself out of business. Why? I wasn't ready. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't making it a habit to take a personal inventory. I wasn't identifying the things that I needed to change, praying about the areas that at that time were holding me back. And most of them had to do with my character, my priorities. And I became deceived with my success. And it wasn't until I really started investing into myself that I was able to invest into the actual quantifiable, measurable growth of my business. And for you, whatever this applies to in your life or business or whatever, you will make mistakes if your goal is to chase growth from the standpoint of getting taller and taller, but at the same time lacking the maturity to know when you really need to grow deeper and deeper as a person first. Once you do that, then you, by default, grow as an entrepreneur. Well, what does deeper mean? Deeper means finding that place within yourself that allows you to navigate the highs and the lows. It's the confidence to navigate the daily grind. Here's a big one: having the discipline to stay in the steady emotional middle and not reacting to circumstances, flying high to the right for everything. Another one is treating challenges not as problems, but as projects. And there are two areas for the most part where you can be on the complete offense, where you control. Everything else is reactionary and out of your control. Those two areas are the morning and the evening. Trust me when I say that by establishing immovable routines in the morning and the evening, you will actually acquire the depth required to grow tall in the middle. The reflection of your leadership is a reflection of your ability and a reflection of the quality of your habits. Hope in and of itself is not going to get you the growth that you seek. Only the right habits will. I say right because we can have the wrong habits. For example, I can tell you that one of the habits that I'm personally working on right now is interrupting people when they speak. I've noticed it, and I focus now on keeping my mouth shut. I've tuned myself to be aware when I feel the urge to cut someone off. And I practice on my kids and my wife. And this is primarily when I'm with them in the morning and the evening. By doing this, I will by default manifest this same habit in my leadership with my team at Harvest, and it will become my identity, thereby making me a better person, a better leader in that particular area. When the leader gets better, everyone gets better. And the potential of your leadership is a reflection of the quality of your habits. The habits you have today are going to shape who you become tomorrow. If you want to grow deep, you've got to get serious about the roots. And so I want to ask you a question. What do the deepest leaders have in common? Well, before we answer that, let's first start with what they don't have in common. And contrary to what we learned in school, leaders of depth are not the smartest people in the room. They're not the most charismatic. They're not the most organized. They're not the most efficient. The best leaders, deep leaders, intentionally create strategic habits that align with their vision. Deep leaders understand that if you have a vision, you have to have a track. I want to say that there's a huge misconception when it comes to vision. That if a vision is not big, it must be too small. And I want to say that there is no such thing. Your vision cannot be sized. It can only be seized. You must be clear on what result you want to get, where you want to go. And it starts with who you want to be and what you want to be known for. Instead of asking, what do I want to do? We need to start asking, who do I want to become? We need to start with who before do. When we're obsessed with height, we fall into the trap of what we want to accomplish. And depth starts with who do I want to become? And so I want to ask you a question. What is the biggest driving force that shapes your habits? Is it convenience or is it purpose? Because to go deep, you need to dig, and to dig requires emotional labor, requires moving through the mental tensions, limiting beliefs, the voices that tell you to stop. I don't want to grow. I'm comfortable with where I am. You got to hear that voice. You got to recognize it, because the more you leverage purpose against convenience, the deeper you become. Here's another question for you. What would you say is the greatest driver that determines what you think of yourself? Is it based on tangible success, or is it based on intangible successes? And this is important because the more you place your value on intangible success, like character, honesty, and integrity, the deeper you become. in each of you. Each one of these habits are manifested. When you keep a promise to yourself, you are building character. You are building honesty. You are building integrity. And if you're doing that, you're building confidence. If there's a book that I would recommend around this, it's James Clear's Atomic Habits. And he has this quote that has really kind of become my thesis when it comes to being intentional about creating new habits. And this is what it says. I want to read it to you. Every action you take is a vote towards the person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. That's powerful. First off, I hate running, but I run every morning because I want the attributes of a runner. I need those attributes to be successful, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, because I believe that business is mental athletics. When I run, I literally tell myself I'm a runner. I assume that identity. And because I assume that identity, I become that person. If you want to change, you got to change who you are. If you change who you are, you will change what you do. And the account that I hold myself when I'm creating a new habit is simple. It's 1% better every day. If I miss a day, I don't beat myself up. I just pick it up the next day. I get right back to it. To land this, all of that to say this, when you feel like you're not going fast enough, if you see somebody that is doing it better than you, don't envy them. Don't just look at the surface, but look at the foundation, because like an iceberg, the top always tends to be a smaller mirror of a larger bottom. That's all I got for you today, and I look forward to seeing you next week on Entrepreneur Insight. Bye for now.